We sometimes feel like healing or transformation has to be hard or it has to be long. And what I found is it doesn't. It can be done as quickly as you want it to be. And it's to the degree that you are willing and that you create the space to start looking inward and to start listening to your body speak to you because it's trying, and to start seeking out the truth in yourself, and the truth will set you free.
Let's talk about change. The truth is, nothing changes unless you change. And if you want to step into your full potential, you need to surround yourself with the right people. That is exactly why I have created the Empowered Life community. Within this community, I'm going to be teaching you the exact same mindset and energy practices that I have taught my clients that are paying me well over six figures, including CEO owners of billion-dollar organizations and professionals at the very top of their fields. You're going to get access to 2 live virtual calls every single month with me, where we're going to dive into mindset, energy practices, spiritual principles that are going to help you thrive in every area of your life. Can't make a call? No worries. We're going to provide you with a recording so that you can catch up anytime. Plus, you're going to have the opportunity for direct coaching from me and to learn from incredible guest speakers who are going to share their best practices and growth. Remember, you become the people that you spend the most time with. So why not spend time within a community that is going to elevate you and your life? For an introductory $499, you're going to get a full year of support and coaching alongside high performers who are committed to expanding their careers, their growth, their finances, and to elevate their overall quality of life. Just click the link in the show notes or log into rudyriekstins.com to lock in your spot and start your transformation today. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Aniston Riekstins, and this is the Empowered Life. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Riekstins. I'm your host, and we are joined today by Aniston Riekstins, who often co-hosts the show with me. But today she is a guest on the show, as I want to bring a conversation forward to each and every single one of you, because I think that there are periods in our life where we go through shifts, changes, and transition. And in going through them, it brings tremendous clarity, but only if we create the space, if we allow ourselves to go inward, to pay attention. And so I'm going to set the foundation for today's episode before we jump in by saying a few months ago, I walked into the bedroom one morning and Aniston was very upset. She had woken up with tears, and I sat down next to her as any husband would, and I was trying to console her. I wanted to fix whatever was going on. And she just said, I'm very emotional today, and I don't know why. And so I gave her space, and I was available if she needed me or wanted me. And obviously spent the day concerned and worried about why. Day 2, still upset, still woke up with tears, very introspective. And I was like, okay, so it's still there. I'll give her some more space and ask if she needs anything. And she said again, nothing's wrong. I'm very sad. Day 3, I started to get worried. And this is where I would really love to pass the microphone over to you, Aniston, because there have been so many times in life where I have had that form of emotion without context, but I don't think that I created the space in the way that you beautifully did. And I would love for you to begin by sharing what was going on at that point, and then more importantly, what was the gift that came through it?
So, what was going on for me in my world at that point was, I had recently, I would say, in the last several months prior to that, gone through a huge shift in my life and my career, and when I did so, I ran straight 60 miles an hour into really what I believe my purpose is and what really lights me up, which is teaching and coaching and creating spaces and places and programs for women to heal and to transform. And I was so excited about that. And I had run so quickly into it that what I didn't realize is I was taking all of my old ways of being with me into this new chapter, which I didn't see any problem with because I felt like I was fine exactly where I was. And I was so busy in the doing that I hadn't really taken time to take a beat and just be still and stop for a little while. And what I started noticing were some symptoms coming up prior to waking up with all this emotion and this journey really beginning for me. And these symptoms showed up as lack of clarity. Like I would be really sure one day about what I was doing and then the next day question it and feel like, wait, is this the right thing? I felt like I was a bit disconnected from the work while I knew in my mind and mentally this is what I had always envisioned. Where I didn't feel the connection was, like, viscerally in my body. It's like I was seeking and wanting the knowing that this is the path and this is the direction I was going on, but that knowing seemed to elude me. And under the surface, that really bugged me. Like, I wasn't really speaking it out loud as much, but I was feeling it. I was feeling this disconnection, which didn't make a lot of sense to me because yet again, I wrote an entire book about purpose and discover the role you were born to fill. And I know that, that role is ever evolving. I was tired, really, really tired, and not just like sleepy tired, I mean, like, bone tired is what I felt like. And just from carrying the weight of everything that I've been doing for the last, 4, 5, 6 years. So, when I woke up that morning, I felt this sense of grief, as if I had lost someone. That's what it felt like to me. It was such a deep grief that I could not ignore it. And I couldn't point to anything outside of me of like, "Oh, that's what that is," or "This is what's going on," because nothing was wrong. Nothing had shifted or changed recently that I could look at and say, "Well, that's why I'm feeling this way." And I know I'm very empathic, and I was like, "Well, maybe I'm picking up energy from other people." But very quickly I realized like, "No, this is coming from within me." And so after trying to figure it out for a few days, and use my mind to figure it out, I realized and I kept coming back to this feeling of I've got to stop. I just have to take a break. I have to be still because there's something within me that is trying to get my attention and I don't know why and I don't know what is there for me. I have no idea what I'm going to find and it's kind of petrifying. But for the first time in my life, I really not only did I give myself permission, but you gave me permission. Like, not that I know I didn't need it, but you were very supportive and just said, I want to support you in having this space and taking a break. So that's what I did. And the days varied in how they looked. This lasted for about 4 weeks, but I spent a lot of time sitting in silence. I spent a lot of time in meditation. I spent a lot of time journaling. And what I realized what I realized in the stillness was that there was an aspect of me that I had been disconnected from for a very long time. Because I had been mentally processing my life. I had been collecting a lot of knowledge. I had been collecting a lot of experiences and taking courses, listening to podcasts. I mean, knew so much. But what I didn't understand was what real embodiment is. And that in order to access our true power and our deepest form of purpose, the answer is within. And that I needed to get still, reconnect with my body, and that all the answers I wanted were there. All the clarity that I sought, that I had been looking outside of myself for, was actually there. accessible, but it was only accessible when I got still enough to listen and when I created the space to listen. And so while that was, a tough period and some of those days were hard because I was releasing a lot is that's what that was. It was emotion that was coming up for me to release. I believe I was shedding old identities. I believe I was grieving the woman I was because this next chapter that I'm going into is going to require a deeper form of presence. It's going to require all my inner power, all my inner magnetism, and I just needed to learn the formula of how to connect to that.
So you mentioned a moment ago that you were grieving the former version of who you were. And I'm super curious now that you have traveled through this journey and come out the other side with profound clarity. And I want to talk about that clarity that you have because I think there's value in people knowing there's value in finding the clarity in a moment, but I want to first come back because I would imagine the audience is wanting to know just a little more about that process that was so painful, that was arduous, that you were in it, and you called it the grieving the loss of your former self. But I'm curious if you think that you were grieving the previous version of you, or if the grief that you were experiencing was your body's way, your soul's way, your mind's way of getting you to pay attention and to go inward? Because it sounds like this was a very deep journey that had you not had some catalyst, for so many people, it's an illness, it's a breakup, it's a loss of something. Whereas in your external environment, using your words, there was nothing pointing to the profound loss. Now, I'm going to just add a layer of context. This scared the absolute shit out of me because I felt so out of control as a husband. We have an incredible marriage. We are always talking. We spend hours a day immersed in each other's minds. How was your day? What are you doing? How do you feel about this? Where are you going? And so we know so much about each other. And then all of a sudden, to not know what you're going through or how to help you or to be the solution or to fix it. I know every man wants to just fix it. It's like it just was crippling to be an observer, and that is all I was able to do was just to be the observer and to give you the space to go through it. But it looked like the most difficult thing you've ever had to go through. What would you say to that?
It's interesting because I'm looking back at it now and I just see the beauty in it, right? And I'm just so grateful for it. I am literally like, I am so eternally grateful for that time because the woman who emerged from that time is a woman that I adore and I love. And I feel like I grew so much and I expanded so much and I have so much more to offer now because of that experience. But while I was going through that experience, what was the hardest thing for me was, I had spent a lifetime really avoiding feeling and feeling the depth of the emotions that I think I had repressed for a very long time. And I've been on a process of healing for many years. This is not my first go around with really coming up against a trauma or coming up against processing something that's tough. But this was different. This to me felt like a homecoming, is what it felt like. It felt like I was thrown. I got chill bumps. Yep. So, homecoming. I was thrown into this deep process of not becoming something different. I was thrown into this deep process of becoming, or not becoming, but remembering who I've always been. Remembering. That's what it really was for me. It was like the layers were being pulled back on, all the ways that I had been showing up in the world and was conditioned to show up in the world. And I think a lot of women and men can relate to this. And it was in a way of, feeling like the minute the alarm or when I'd wake up in the morning, it was like, okay, performing, proving, pushing, productivity. It was taking action. And I didn't always trust myself. um, I didn't necessarily believe, even though I consciously understood, yes, we are powerful beings. Yes, we manifest our realities. yes, it's important that we align and all of the things. I just hadn't experienced what it was to be fully embodied in those words, like to understand what that feels like, to be so rooted in who you are that the doubt goes away. The need to chase goes away because you realize all along the magnetism that you seek, right? That you're like, I want to magnetize everything to me is not something that you do outside of yourself. You literally are the magnet. You like, and I was reconnecting with the version of myself that's always been there under the proving, under the performing, under the masks, under the trying, forcing, chasing that has always been there, and I finally had that reunion with her. And it took a couple of weeks. And in those weeks of the just processing the emotion, I was like, what if this never ends? What if I'm like really losing it? Like, what if, and all of a sudden, everything I thought I wanted, I couldn't even connect to anymore. I felt like I was in the middle of this void, like where I was no longer who I had been. And I wasn't yet this new version of myself, and I felt like I had lost all of my footing and I was like just suspended there. I had no idea how long it was going to last. And when you're in those moments, you really need is that person to be like, "Hey, this is good. This is really really good. Just go deep, surrender to it, rest, give your body what it needs, allow yourself to process these things." The cool thing was that in this span of, I would say it was about 4 weeks, I was introduced to a lot of new tools that really supported me, and and things that maybe I didn't even know about. I was trying new things. I was really doing whatever I could to stay present in my body. So rather than doing things like would take my mind out of my body and distract myself, I was doing things that brought my awareness right back into it, and I was staying present with it, and I was talking to Rudy about it. And so yes, it was not an easy process because I didn't feel comfortable prior to that being still. I had a hard time with just stopping. My nervous system is what really was the hardest part, was regulating my nervous system, because my nervous system was screaming to me, if you stop, you'll lose everything. If you're still, nothing's going to get done, and that's not safe. And so I had to first process all the emotion. Then I had to re regulate my nervous system so that it felt safe to be still. It felt safe to be in my body again. And I think that that's a big issue for a lot of people, but we don't really have a name for it. We don't know that that's what the issue is. So we just continue to fill our calendars, to fill our schedules, to not create space to stop and be still and get the clarity that is waiting for us right inside.
Hey, it's Aniston Riekstins here, and I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if there's more to your life and work than what you're doing right now? What if I told you that the universe is hiring and you were born to fill a role that will bring you true purpose and success? In my new #1 best-selling book, The Universe is Hiring, Discover the Role You Were Born to Fill, I'm going to show you exactly how to step into that role. This isn't just a book full of inspiration. It's a roadmap to help you start shifting into a more fulfilling life right now. You'll get clear on your unique purpose, learn how to align with your strengths, and take actionable steps towards the career and life that truly light you up. If you're ready to make a change and start living the life you were meant for, grab your copy today. Available anywhere you buy your books online or click the link in the show notes.
I want to anchor something for the benefit of the audience. I have always innately known that we need to sit with ourselves. And I don't just mean meditation. So, for those of you that are listening that haven't yet meditated, that's not in your wheelhouse, it's not something you aspire to do or to learn. I'm just talking about being in your own thoughts and not clouding or busying your mind and your body too much. Aniston would always have a podcast on, or she'd be reading a book, or she would be listening to a show, or she would be studying something. Like there would always be a distraction around. And I would say to her, don't you ever just enjoy the solitude of yourself? I would go outside and I would go for a walk with no sound, with no anything, no audio, no music, just a walk, just in my mind, and allow my thoughts to unfold. Or I would get in my car and I'll go for a drive, a long drive. I used to drive from the city where I lived all the way to my parents', which was a 12 to 14-hour road trip, and I would sometimes do it without turning on the radio, without using my phone, just in absolute silence the entire trip. And it was one of my favorite times because I got to just clarify all of my thoughts, all of my feelings, organize my priorities. And it was just like having a meeting with me. And I've always enjoyed that time. Still to this day, I will every day go outside. I will take my shoes off. I will walk on the earth and I will have no distractions. It'll just be me and it'll be this quiet time, be that solitude, whether that's the sauna, the cold plunge, whether it's walking outside and grounding. I'm always creating space to sit with myself. Whereas Aniston would never allow herself that honor or privilege of just being with herself. I asked my previous question because, from my vantage point, and you got to it in the end of what I was assuming it was that it was the recalibration. And the pain was never allowing yourself to feel by being distracted. For some people, it's distractions through alcohol or drugs or other vices. For Aniston, it was learning, it was knowledge, it was gaining, it was consuming information, but never pausing long enough to allow that information to somehow settle and then to do something with it and to bring it forward. And when she woke up with this tremendous sadness, it was like being forced to confront all the feelings, not a single emotion, because she would have this, you know, I want to say roller coaster of emotions, ups and downs, and then think she's through it, and then it would come back. It was just so much, and I think it was just the first time, possibly ever, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but where you just allowed yourself to feel, you allowed yourself to sit with it. You mentioned a moment ago that you came out of this process with a roadmap of sorts. I would love for you to speak into it because when you came back with this clarity was when I said to you, "Oh, this has got to be an episode on the podcast," because I think so many people could just benefit not only from hearing the clarity that you're bringing forward, but to create the clarity themselves and to know that when they spend time with themselves, when they reacquaint themselves with themselves, that there is so much information there and it is waiting for us if we create the space.
Yeah, I feel like I did come out with a roadmap. And throughout the entire process, I knew inherently, I knew inside that this was going to be really, really important for me to be intentional about journaling through this whole process and really sharing what the process that I'm going through, because I am a teacher. And I always teach through my own life experience. And in fact, I think experience is always the greatest teacher and usually pointing to what you will be teaching in the future or turning around and helping other people. So I was really committed to not only being present in my own transformation, if you will, or reclamation is what it really wound up being, but taking notes because I knew that some of this would turn into content and turn into ways that I can help other people. And so the first step of the roadmap really is to recognize the invitation for what it is. When you start feeling, or if if you're maybe you're responding to a life experience, or maybe like me, you're not, and all of a sudden you wake up and you have all of this emotion, you can feel it right under the skin, right under the surface. And that is an invitation. That is your body communicating to you, "Hey, there's some energy here that's present for you that wants your attention. It wants your awareness. It needs a little stillness, and it needs you to be present with it so that it can move through you and it can inform you, and then it can be released." And I think that early in my life, I have had invitations that I have not accepted. And I think that we get these invitations and then the invitations turn into a little bit less voluntary. And that's when something happens in your life that forces you to be still, that forces you to pay attention. And I know this and I believe this. And so when I recognized what was happening as the invitation, I accepted the invitation. I created the space for it. I went to Rudy and I said, "Hey, this is what's going on. I'm going to stop working for a little while." And he's like, "I encourage you to do that." I was like, "I don't want to take my attention off of what is going on within me. I don't know if it's going to be a couple of days. I don't know if it's going to be a couple of weeks, a couple of months. I have no idea. But I feel it so strongly that if I will just go all in on this, that there is something really beautiful here for me." And so I created the space. Then every day I'd wake up and feel into what is going on within me. Some mornings I would sit and journal, and it was almost as if I was being taken on this journey where something might happen or I'm responding to something and it's bringing up a trigger. So each day it almost felt like a different theme, like something was coming forward for me to unwrap, if you will. It could be a limiting belief, a way of perceiving myself, a realization that a habit or a behavior or a pattern has been really unhealthy and that I've had it for a long time, things I haven't forgiven, people I hadn't forgiven, old resentments, and old shame, shame around sexuality, shame around you know um, failures that I've had in the past. I mean, there was a lot that came up. And again, it sounds like, wow, that's horrible. Who would want to go through that? But because I created the space and I came into it with an open mind, I feel like it really did open the floodgates for me because I had no resistance. And I was willing to be a student of myself. I was willing to be shown. And some days I'd wake up and feel great and I'd have energy and I'd want to be outside and I want to be around people. And then other days I did not want to be around people. I pretty much got off social media. It was almost too stimulating for me during that time. I felt like I was too raw and I had like my nerve endings were hanging out. But really, I just kept getting drawn back into myself. And what I started to realize after that first couple of weeks, when I started to really settle in and my nervous system started to calm down, um, is that there's this peace, this like reservoir of peace and certainty that lives within us. But oftentimes I think it is just covered beneath the old these ways of being that aren't supportive of accessing it. And so getting still and simplifying and taking away the distractions, I was able to access that. And from that point on, it was like I just wanted to stay connected to it because it felt so good. I felt so at peace. I felt I was moving slower and more intentionally. I was taking deeper breaths. I was really tuned into my body and I had changed a lot of the ways that I was showing up. I would used to, as Rudy said, always listening to things. I love to learn. I love to have listen to thought-provoking conversations. That's why we have a podcast. And there is such a benefit to that. But I think that there's seasons for everything. There's seasons for consuming, there's seasons for creating, and then there's seasons for just stillness. And I had just skipped over those seasons of stillness for so long that it was a new territory, new place for me to be. And one day I was exercising and I was just listening to calm music. I didn't have anything else on. And I was really just like listening to my body. And as I would move, I was feeling how my muscles felt and really keeping my focus on my body. And then all of a sudden, it's like my body spoke to me. It's like this idea came through me and then like through my body and up into my mind and it was like coming home to her. That's what you've been doing. You're coming home to her. And it was like all of a sudden in that one moment, I knew. I was like, of course, that's what I've been doing. I've been coming home to the version of me that has always been there, my most powerful, authentic, pure frequency of my beingness. That's what I've been doing. And that's what I want to help women do too. Because oftentimes we don't really know where to start. And it's one of those things where you're like, I don't even know where to begin to have the conversation. And so it was in that moment when I received the idea that I decided I wanted to give women a place to start.
What I love about this story is that, you were in that moment working out, you had music, very, I would say, spiritual, meditative like music in the background. And then all of a sudden, you anchored your mind into your body, you anchored your emotions back into your body. For so many of us, we're trying to attain something higher than us. We're wanting to connect to a source outside of us. And I would say for most of my life, that has been my journey. I've been aspiring to ascend. That was what I thought was the benefit of, coming here and growing your awareness, is that you have this mental ascension where you no longer need your body. You're no longer attached to the physical, and all of the gold for you came in connecting and reconnecting into your body. You used the word embodiment a number of times throughout today. And embodiment is a word that is thrown around so loosely in spiritual circles, but it is the act of embodying not only your physical self, the physical world around you, but bringing in the remembrance of who you are into the very here and the very now, and then living and breathing as the full extension of who you came here to be. It is being integrity with your thoughts, your feelings, and in that moment, walking as the divine self. You called it coming home to her. It has inspired a movement of where you are wanting to give back and support women who are potentially going through, have gone through, or are going to go through something very similar. And I think that this is going to be hugely successful. First and foremost, I want to take my hat off to you, because when you came to me with this idea, I was like, that is going to be huge. And then I had a thought of, wow, she could really make some good money with that. And you said, I want this to be a gift. I want this to be free. I want to support people. I want people to have a tool so that it doesn't take them 3 weeks, doesn't take them 4 weeks. I made a note while you were speaking earlier to just circle back to, if you are listening to this, you are a woman who is going through something right now. You are shedding the former version of yourself. You resonate with the words of coming home to yourself, to remember who you are, to embody the full extent of the brilliance and the divinity that is you. Then here's the beauty in that. You don't have to take off 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years. You have to take a few moments every single day. And it is in creating the space. And Aniston, I would love for you to share a little bit about, what is this free gift that you're going to be giving? What is this program that you have curated? And speak into a little bit of like, who is this for? And then what are they going to gain?
So, coming home to her is a 7-day voice activation series. And essentially, what it is a it's a mini. It's not a program. Okay, I don't want to call it program. This is not just content. This is built to be a homecoming for you. It's built to be a space that is created with a little bit of structure, that it's going to invite you into yourself to reconnect with her, to reconnect with that deepest version of you. And my own experience inspired a lot of the content. And I decided that I knew when I was going through it that I wanted to be so focused inward that anything that was going to be too distracting, like watching a video or something like that, would take me out of my body, right? And put me right back into my mind. But that sometimes just listening to music or listening to words actually helped me deepen into my process, not take me out of it, which is why I felt strongly that it needed to be a voice activation series. So I've pre recorded 7 audios, one for each day, and they're on 7. They were. They're speaking into 7 different areas that oftentimes as women, we become illusioned around, that we forget, that we need a reframe, and we need some awareness. And these audios are meant to bring awareness to where you are at on that specific topic, and that I've included some journal prompts to allow you to really integrate and go deeper into your truth. And then a few embodiment practices of what you can do using your body and motion and movement and breath to release what needs to be released, to anchor what needs to be anchored, and to bit by bit become more embodied. And the goal isn't that at the 7 days you're fixed and fine and everything's fine. It's that it kicks off a practice for you, because this is a way of being. This is a way of moving forward that can support you. I noticed that after I started doing this practice, and I'm still doing it every single day, the same fears and resistance that I used to come up against when I would be doing something uncomfortable, like launching a new program or anything like that, just don't feature for me anymore because I'm so rooted in who I am. I realized that I was trying to outsource my belonging and outsource my validation, all the while really seeking the validation from myself. And so once I reconnected to myself, the validation was there. It's like built in as like a default mechanism. And it's been the most freedom that I've experienced. But there's no bypass for getting to that space without coming back to yourself. You are the Holy Grail. I'm going to say that again. You are the Holy Grail. You are what you have been searching for. It's within you. And so all the tools that I create, I believe need to be leading you in, not leading you out. And so that's why I'm so excited about this. This is so sorry, for the woman who knows that she's disconnected from her body, that doesn't fully understand her body's signals, that pushes and overworks and strives and burns herself out. It's definitely for you. This is also for the woman who feels like she's in the in between. She's no longer who she was. She doesn't know who she's in the process of becoming and isn't really sure what to do now. This is for the woman who feels disconnected from her power, who understands a lot of concepts. She understands theory and philosophy. She's probably spiritually inclined, but she doesn't fully embody them yet. She knows what to do, but she's not always doing what she knows. She hasn't actually viscerally experienced what magnetism feels like, or viscerally experienced what it is to allow your emotions to be the guides and messengers that they are, instead of feeling overwhelmed by them or feeling like they're controlling you. So, this is for a lot of different women. And the beautiful thing is, it can meet you where you're at. Doesn't matter what religious preference you have or religious beliefs you have. It doesn't matter if you're on the beginning of your spiritual journey or you've been on a spiritual journey for a really long time. I believe that it will impact you exactly where you need it to.
Aniston and I have spoken at a number of events together where she has done a activation, and one time was in an audience of business people with approximately 500 people in attendance, and a second time was being done at a women's motivational conference to support them in not only creating success in their personal and professional lives, but also just creating avenues for passion and purpose. And I had the privilege of being in both of these spaces to witness. And the first one, Anderson had recorded this audio almost as a love letter to the individual, to the listener, so they could have this experience with their eyes closed in a darkened room with all of the lights off and the simplicity of just the voice. And I got to hear this beforehand, and I had my feedback and I thought this was going to be great, but I had no idea the power and the impact that this would have. And as it fit into this event, she had finished a section on stage, walked off the stage, the lights had gone off, her voice came on, and I then took the stage. And so I was on stage for the 3 to 4 minutes that this audio was playing. And I got to witness from the front of the stage, looking into the audience, the journey that everybody went on. When I say there were 500 people having a visceral experience, they went somewhere, they felt something. I knew that I was listening to something that was not of this earth. It was a transmission of truth that was spoken through her, and it changed lives in that room. People were crying because they were remembering themselves. People were hugging themselves, almost with their arms around their bodies and just giving themselves that embrace. People came back to us afterwards as we left the venue and on our way to dinner and walking into the venue the next morning, just stopping us again and again and again, saying, it felt like it was me speaking to me. Like that was the message I needed to hear. And that was at a business conference. And then we spoke at this women's event. And again, woman after woman after woman came up again and again and again and just said, it felt like I was having this conversation with my soul. And I don't think that there is anything more beautiful and more profound than having a moment where you remember who you are. I always say, as a deep romantic, that the greatest moment of my life was when I met Aniston in Disney World, turning around and seeing her standing there. And that moment of, there she is. Like that was the day my life started. And I will never forget every ounce of like, I have that day in clarity, like the direction of the wind, the temperature, what I was wearing, what she was wearing, what we did, where we went, who we spoke to. But I think that the greatest day of my life was the day that I remembered who I was. And I think that this activation is the greatest remembrance and carries the power and the potential over 7 days to slowly open you to the possibility and the potential of remembering why you came here, who you are, and how truly powerful and profound you are. Using Aniston's words, you are everything you seek. You are the Holy Grail. And this is just an incredible journey that you get to navigate back to you. It is a coded vibrational frequency of remembrance. And if you are feeling called, it costs you nothing but your time. And you have everything in the world to gain on the other end of this journey. And I am going to tell you, as the observer to this, it will be the most incredible experience of your life. And you will remember it as the beginning of your life for the rest of your life.
Thank you so much. And I would echo everything that Rudy is saying. I think that we sometimes feel like, you know, healing or transformation has to be hard or it has to be long. And what I found is it doesn't. It can be done as quickly as you want it to be. And it's to the degree that you are willing and that you create the space to start looking inward and to start listening to your body speak to you because it's trying, and to start seeking out the truth in yourself, and the truth will set you free. So, with that, we are so excited to welcome you into Coming Home to Her. We are going to put a link in the show notes. And once you register, you'll have day one in your inbox within seconds. So we hope you enjoy.
I would love that if you can think of somebody who would resonate with coming home to her, who is ready to take back her life, to take back her power, and more than anything, just to remember that the divinity is always flowing to you and through you, and more specifically, is you, then I would love for you to share it. because in the more of the sharing is the more that we can remind, and the more that we remind, the more that we heal not only ourselves, but we heal the world. We love you guys so very much. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Again, please feel free to send us a message of what really, really resonated with you. If you go through the coming home to her journey, I would love to know. Aniston would love to know, what was your biggest takeaway? What did you change? And how have you created that impact out and in the world? We love you guys so very much. And we'll catch you in the next episode of the Empowered Life podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.